We've been doing this for half a decade, dog. 5 years.
God damn.
3 years with our friend Nick. We get to call him Nick. Kind of crazy.
You know him like that?
Doing it this long. Yeah, we do.
Oh, shit.
I got to see him in Korea this offseason. It was awesome. Real person, by the way, everyone, just in case you're ever wondering.
Sure.
Very tall, too. Nick was very tall. You were in...
Yeah, you said it was misleading.
Yes. It wasn't misleading. It's just you're very tall. And because I'd seen you before over at the LCS when I think you were on Tempo Storm, was like Guardians. I just didn't remember you being that tall, but he's
how
tall.
How tall is LS?
Like 5'11", 6 foot.
I thought he was,
I'm
thought he was
5'11".
shorter.
I'm 5'11".
I thought he was shorter than you, dGON.
He is barely. But I mean, it was
okay.
very negligible. Negligible.
Yeah, I'm 5'11".
Like LS is pretty. He's got the Chad height. It's pretty good.
Respect.
Welcome back, everyone. Facecheck 5-year anniversary. We're back for another run here where we'll talk about the LCS, but also whatever the hell else we want to talk about in the League of Legends and about our lives. So as we always do on the show, Dom, how are you, man? How was your off season? I know that you've kicked off your coverage of the LPL and LCK on your road to being the most comprehensive coverage.
Hell no.
You didn't watch any LCK?
I've watched it, but I haven't actually covered it at all.
Okay.
But I've been watching LCK. I've been watching Clid completely fucking sprint it. Just as expected. Like, I don't know. I guess no one just watches the LPL because this guy sprinted it last year. And then he goes to Hanwha Life and he's just running it down like egregiously hard. Like, it actually looks intentional. When Clid is inting the games, it looks like he wants to be inting. Like he's trying to punish Zika and Kingen for winning a world title or something.
So one of the stories that I've heard behind the scenes on Clid is that he actually does get mad in game and he does want to lose. Like it's like an actual yeah. This is a real thing.
Right.
This is a real thing. Yeah, this is a real
I mean, it
thing.
looks like it. It looks like he wants to lose.
If he has a champion in mind, and again, this is only stuff that I've heard like behind the scenes. I've never actually talked to Clid himself. If he has a champion in mind that he wants to play, and then it gets like overruled in the draft or something like that, and he has to play like a champ he doesn't want to play, he loads into the game mad. He's CBA already as he loads in.
Well, honestly, that's more respectable because for a while I just thought he was bad, but maybe he's just actually inting on stage for like 2 years now. So yeah,
that's
okay. Changed my opinion.
Nightmare.
Never mind,
That's
he's
a
the GOAT.
nightmare to have to draft around Dandy and Mowgli over there as coaches. That seems very, very difficult. Again, Hanwha Life, in case you don't know, the super team, one of the super teams made over in Korea in the off season. So not off to a great start. But other than how much you don't like, look at it. Look how much you know about the LCK without even fully covering it. How is everything else, Dom? How was your off
great.
season, your week off?
Yeah, I had a kidney stone earlier this week, so that was nice.
Oh my god, I forgot about that, dude. We've been doing it for so long, you got kidney stones.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think that it was literally formed from watching as much LCS as I have. So it's like it was an interesting experience. Haven't had one of those before, so yeah.
Well,
it was
sorry about it.
It was the least painful thing that I've seen this week, actually. The most has been like every LEC game, every LEC draft, you know. It feels like we've just continued season 12. It feels like season 12 is just continued and we haven't started season 13 until 13.2 comes out and we actually get a new AD carry patch.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, the G2 Fnatic game that ended before it even started? Hansama and Draven, you should go watch it and see. I think they were saying that was the fastest mythic that has ever been picked up in the LEC. I think Dracos was asking about that. That was a pretty big stop. Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. LS, how you doing, man?
I was gone for a while, right? November, December, barely showed up at all on like streams and stuff. I did a lot of testing stuff. Yeah, I think I released a video tomorrow. Is the current plan. I think that there's a very big video that'll come out on YouTube tomorrow, or my YouTube, that will explain like everything. And then now, obviously, I have Joe living with me, the producer for the show. I hired a full-time Korean manager and assistant. And gonna go really hard with content and like Korean-centric content too. And then I have some people living with me, so that's all that's going on.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And when I got to see you over the break, it was in November. It was in November. You seemed healthy. I think that break was really, really good for you, and I'm glad you took it. I know people probably missed your content or whatever, but for both of you guys, the amount of content you guys pump out and coverage that you pump out across all the different leagues is top notch. But I'm very glad you guys got to take a break. So hopefully you're refreshed, ready to go to chastise all the vibe-buys and the way that the game has been played, all the picks, all the unique picks that have been picked so far in the LCK. And I'm sure the LCS will, find some new way to entertain us this year. And for you fans out there, being able to hear your stories over at Worlds and on every step of the road, whether it was New York, I ran into you in New York, or San Francisco, was super awesome. So I'm so pumped to be able to bring you guys another season of Facecheck. So thank you very much, and let's get into it. All right, so this is our first episode, so we got to kind of cover everything that's happened, including Riot's really bad start to the year. So one, they changed the time, right? So LCS now going to be Thursday, Friday, and it was going to be at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. The idea behind it, I think, was, hey, was it? Yeah, I don't even remember what the idea behind it was. I think they were trying to carry a European audience as well to get all of the English-speaking audience. But then eventually they caved. They've now changed it to 2 p.m., 5 p.m. Eastern to get just the American audience. Obviously, this change came at the expense of the LCS for Valorant. So Travis got to sit down with John Needham and Naz, who's the head of, I think, League of Legends global head of League of Legends. And they're like, okay, look, we had to balance North American Valorant, North American League of Legends, European Valorant, European League of Legends, and they had to all fit within time slots. So LCS gets a smaller bunch, which fed to a larger narrative here, Dom, about not investing into League of Legends, because all we got for the season start was the little butterfly flying through the rift. How did you feel at the beginning of the year, like when we saw all this shit go down and it feel like, all right, game's dead, it's over?
Well, for me, like, I actually really like the time change because it's just way better for my schedule. Like, my schedule essentially is that I wake up 3 a.m. every single day for LPL, and LPL has no days off, really, besides there's like a Lunar New Year break, and then once you get back into it, it's every single day, right? So it's 3 a.m. every single day. And with the 2 p.m. Scheduled start time for LCS, I was like, damn, nice. I got 8-hour break between every single day of games, because normally when I do LCS into LPL, I'll have like 4 to 5 hours in between. And that's the break in between both streams, not like the amount of sleep that I actually get, which is what people like assume. They're like, oh, you got 4 or 5 hours. Like, I literally just turn off the stream and I just like collapse on my keyboard and then wake up like 5 hours later. So I was pretty happy with that change. So it kind of, like, for me personally, for selfish reasons, I actually wanted the LCS to start a little bit earlier. I don't really care about cinematics personally. Like, that's just not my thing. I care more about like the balance of the game. So to me, I wasn't like, for me, I wasn't as mad about everything else that was occurring. The, communication issues from Riot, the, dog shit cinematic, like all that stuff, the silence from them on certain parts, like all that stuff didn't really matter too much to me. The thing that mattered the most, was the state of the game, because I care about the competitive like health of the game and just the playability of the game, because I myself play the game, right? So I want the game to be in a good state. And I feel like just the way that they did their offseason was weird. It's another offseason that dragged on like a super long time. You felt like you had the initial patch where you got jungle pets, and in like a week you're used to the jungle pets, and then you don't get another meaningful patch besides for like just minor fixes and like, minor adjustments until 13.2. So like a week into the season is when they're actually going to be doing their big like 80 carry rework, essentially, that should change the game heavily. Like that's going to be probably the biggest patch of the entire offseason. So I thought that was super weird. Like I don't understand what the point of the offseason is if you're going to, take 2 months to do one major patch and then you don't do another major patch until 2.5 months into the season. I just thought it was like a really weird timing of everything. And I know people are saying, oh, like Riot needs to take a break, but like do you really need like a 2-month break? I feel like that's a crazy break. And a lot of the excuses didn't really make sense to me because they were talking about, oh, well, Worlds is the biggest time of the year, for the game. But isn't that just for like the esports team? Like the balance team isn't making changes during all of Worlds. So you'd assume that like the balance team and like the team that's, going over new changes, they would be the ones that were like working like less during that time. And then as soon as you get into off season, that would be their time to shine where they're going to adjust the game and make the game like exciting for the new season. So I thought that was the strangest part.
So one thing that I can comment on preseason, because I went on a 4-hour hike with the head of the balance, right? The Riot Froxen. I went on a 4-hour hike in Seoul with him, and I got to ask him a bunch of questions, and I was asked not to make an explicit video about it, but that I can talk about anything that we brought up. So preseason 2024, right? Next year's preseason is already being worked on, and 2023's started in last year, January, February. So right now is when they start working on preseason. They don't do it during Worlds or October or whatever. Apparently, preseason is started at the very beginning of the year because of the data inside of the game, and all these other problems that exist. And so that's why it might look like every single fucking preseason is constantly whiffing or missing, because by the time we get to the end of the year and we have all these things that we want to look different for next year, it wasn't in the plans at the beginning of the year. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know why
really.
It's fucking weird.
I mean,
yes,
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all to me because you don't even know how champions are going to be behaving within the game. At the beginning of the year, you don't even know the champions that are obviously they have insight. They know what champions are going to create, but you don't know how they're going to interact with the game and what you're going to do. So I feel like that's such a broad window, where it's a year to before you're making changes for 2024. And then also when you look at the changes that came in, did it take a year to have this emotional support pet following me around when I play jungle? Is that the year of work? What actually is the year going into?
They wanted the Pokemon pets earlier, but there was issues with getting it in.
Yeah, I'd imagine that it's more about the big sweeping changes, because think of other changes that have came in preseason, the dragon changes were really big ones. What Baron did, those were all preseason type things. So I think the jungle pets were the big one, and obviously they'll tune things within Worlds, but not overhauls of champions. So I think it's the bigger movement things. And another video that was out earlier this month was a sit down with the 2 executive producers for League of Legends. They sat when they missed the mark about the cinematic and admitted a lot of things. It was really, I thought it was very enlightening. There were people that were like, oh, you're not telling us what you're doing. But to have the heads of the game sit down and say, hey, look, there were staffing issues as we're growing as a company. Here's things that we missed on. We missed on preseason. We missed on the cinematic. We missed on communicating with you. We have a new game mode that's coming out. So the fact that there was an immediate reaction towards, hey, we messed up, and Riot actually admitting they messed up. How many times does Riot really admit that they messed up? They really don't do that. And they did it twice in this January window with the schedule and with the game. So that was just such a big thing. I remember it being such a big thing at the beginning of the year. I felt very down. I felt very doom and gloom at the beginning of January, because it felt like the game that we've invested in wasn't listening, wasn't growing, and by all intents and purposes, Valorant, great game. I love playing it. I love covering it. I love casting it. But all of a sudden became the big boy overnight. So
I don't know. I just don't understand how there used to be so many changes. If the company's bigger now and they have better teams and everything, how did they used to have changes before that made the game feel more alive, and they were producing a ton of champions, and the game was actually feeling more balanced at times. We didn't end up in these stuck metas. Like I feel like I'm still in 2022 when I watch like drafts and stuff. It's like, oh, Yuumi Zeri, Lucian Nami. Okay, Vi
Lucian
picked
Nami,
into
geez.
Zeri, Wukong picked into like Vi. Like you've got, you know, say like now you just have Cassante and Jax top every game. Like okay, it just doesn't feel like they're making that many changes compared to before when they were making a ton of changes and they had a smaller company and they're saying that now they have a bigger budget as well. It just doesn't like everything that they say doesn't like align with what their actions are.
I asked this exact question. The answer that I got is that with the MMO and other games, some of the previous designers and like balance team people went off into different departments, and the hiring process to find people that are actually competent and can do these jobs, etc., takes a really long time. And sometimes the hiring process requires them to actually hire people that lack the ability to actually do the coding or like the whatever the fuck it is, because all the actual designers and balance team manually input the code for the balance changes into the game. It's not the engineers. And so sometimes there's an onboarding process where the people that they're getting to do design and balance also have to simultaneously be taught how to do the code for the game, and that makes everything slow. And then Riot also has this conundrum where, again, this is just going off my memory, the game is perceived to be that there's actually more viable champions than what pro play is doing. And so it's a difficult idea for how can they actually make the meta shift without violating the perceived balance of some champions. The suggestion that I put forward was actually placebo buffs, like buffs that are very minor, that don't hold influence over anything, but that it puts the champion on the patch note that might make the pro player go, oh yeah, let me try that again. Or like, let me play that. And then, you know, it feels good because they play it. And then they're like, oh yeah, I'll try this.
Like a, what? I'm trying to think.
Like 5
misfortune,
damage
make it
on
rain.
Elise Q.
Oh, I got it.
Like
Yeah,
5
yeah,
damage
yeah.
on Elise
Yeah,
Q
exactly.
at max rank.
Yeah, exactly.
Like flat damage, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good work.
Well,
I mean, I don't know. Like, I just think that there's interactions in the game that just,
Well, here, let me give you an
so
example.
unhealthy.
Let me tell you something that would be so broken. Imagine if Karthus's Q had another flat 10 damage at rank 1. Something like that, right? Would we agree that's broken?
I mean, yeah, it sounds decently broken for jungle Karthus in your first clear.
Right. So let's say that Karthus gets 10 additional flat damage. Do you think anyone would play Karthus?
I mean, I assume that a lot of people would start because they would just remember like how Karthus feels, and they'll be like, "Oh shit, I full clear at like 240 like 2 or something."
Sure,
but like
sure,
in
but
reality, right now you clear at like
Yeah.
250.
Yeah, and Karthus, I mean, but look at Season 9 and Season 10 Karthus. No one played him. Even though that was the 250 Karthus when everyone else was 320.
Yeah, I mean, people did play him. It was just like, I think Season 9, wasn't there a decent amount of Karthus in Season 9?
Season 9, Malice was, we pulled it out first, right?
Yeah, I think
BBQ.
so.
Yeah, that was season, yeah. But no one was playing. I mean, I remember casting LCK. I was there on the desk for the first Karthus game, right? Cuz ended up playing it, and it was like no one would play it. I don't know. We got, I think, 3 Karthus games.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, the champion was absurdly broken in Season 9.
yeah. Well, again, we'll get to see. That's also really cool that you have this insight here, LS. But we'll get to see what they do in the future, and it was, I guess, cool to hear like how it's planned, and hopefully what learning lessons they take away. They didn't share that part, but I guess we'll have to keep an eye on the patches or whatever in the future. Okay, so let's move from league as a whole to our league itself over in the LCS. Big changes. Let's start with our roster changes there. Out of the retirement home into the hype house. It only cost 30% of the workforce. 100 Thieves bringing in a Doublelift, and Bjergsen moving Busio up to the top. Team Liquid bringing over world champion, reigning world champion. Has this happened before? When they come over as a world champion, Pyosik coming over, and then bumping up into the Cloud9 roster. See you later, Jensen. In comes Diplex, and then FlyQuest bringing in the very hyped duo, Vikla and Prince. these were some of the big moves. What was your biggest move in your opinion here, LS?
I think overall, I think FlyQuest won the offseason in general. I think FlyQuest are going to be the best team in LCS. That's my current prediction. But yeah, what?
Same. I have the same prediction.
Yeah. So I think FlyQuest are going to win the LCS, and then after FlyQuest, I have C9 or EG. Because C9 didn't really make that big of a change, right? Jensen was sort of a role player mid laner. He was not mechanically very adept. And everything that we know about Diplex is that apparently he's supposed to be very mechanically good. And I think that like with the other 4 pieces of C9 being there, it's very easy to start to role play, right? It's very easy to understand that that's all you have to do. So I think at worst, C9 is second or third. And then obviously EG. And then after that, I guess the dark horse thing is Team Liquid. Now, a lot of people think Team Liquid have a really big advantage because it's all the Koreans and it's a complete Korean staff. But what they forget is that the Korean culture, Harry and Yun are not Korean culture just because they're Korean. They were not born in Korea. They did not go through the Korean education system. They do not inherently respect you simply on the basis that you're older. They do not care that just because you're older, something like that goes on, because that's just not a thing to them. And so there's still going to be a cultural issue even on TL, despite ethnically, or is it ethnically, right?
Yeah, ethnically.
Yeah, ethnically, right? They're all right. They're all the same. And so I think Team Liquid could be really good. The things that I've heard is that TL is doing not super great in scrims, at least against a few of the people that I do get to talk to. And then after that, I think 100 Thieves is like 5th or 6th. And I think that's kind of sad, to be completely honest. Because obviously, like, the Bjergsen Doublelift thing coming back, it is really, really big hype for, like, fan base and everything. But I don't have high expectations for 100 Thieves because I think Doublelift is probably going to be 3rd or 4th best ADC in North America. I think Prince and Berserker are 1st. And while I think, like, Doublelift can probably do okay in lane, and I think Busio is really good. I think he's the most potential support in NA. I think that 100 Thieves are just way too overpowered in all the other roles by all the other teams.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the biggest change that I see, the number one like signing is Prince. I mean, we haven't had a Korean come over at this point in their career before. It was always like a little bit after they started falling off is when we would get like Koreans. It would be like a year removed from their dominant split. But this is like somebody who just had a like absurdly dominant split within LCK. Like, I mean, he was the carry of Sandbox. Like, obviously people would do things early, but like he was the reason that they were able to actually turn those leads into wins. And I just think that like if he plays anything like he did in LCK, like he should just like it should be unlaneable for everyone outside of maybe Berserker. Like I don't think there's any other like bot duo that should be able to lane against this guy, assuming that Ayla has like baseline competence as a support. So Prince to me, I think should just be crazy. And then also I know a lot of people are down on Vikla because he wasn't like, I mean, a lot of people didn't have him top 5 mid in LCK, but I mean, I still think that he was like in the tier of good LCK players. Like he is a solid mid laner, you know? So when he comes over to NA, I think that he's going to be running the league as well. And when you compare it to teams like 100 Thieves, I just don't see how they're going to be able to get through lane. I assume that 100 Thieves will have a lot of games where they're just like behind and they like might slowly out macro these like, or they'll have like at least a cohesive idea on how they want to play the game because Doublelift and Bjergsen have worked together so long. They have similar ideas on how they want the game to play out, but it's hard to do that from behind. So maybe they're able to get wins in the early season when, you know, everyone is super out of sync and players are still getting used to playing with one another. But once they actually like, when everyone starts buckling down towards the end of the split, I just don't see how 100 Thieves can match the simple like laning power of a FlyQuest or a C9 or any of these teams that are projected top 4, because I did my tier list before the show. I have it out. I did it on Twitch, and I had the same exact rankings pretty much. I had FlyQuest 1, I had C9 2, EG 3, 4 I had TL, and then I had 100 Thieves 5, and then Dignitas 6th. That was my like top 6. But the problem with FlyQuest and C9 is that they're just too good. Like, I guess it's not a problem, but the aspect of them that's so strong is that they have two great AD carry players, and they're too mechanically gifted in their lanes to actually get behind or like play from behind ever in these games. Like, it feels like they'll just be like smurfing on everyone. You combine their like two beast players, Vikla and Prince, and then you have like the most stable top laner in LCS history, the best top laner in LCS history in Impact. And then on FlyQuest, their jungler Spica, who is somebody who knows how he wants to play the game, and he's really smart as a jungler. So the only question mark is really Ayla, and really how bad can a support be? Like, a support, even if he was like the 8th best support in the league or something, I still feel like the team would be beast. They just have too many other pieces, and support doesn't matter, right? Like, those, like, half the supports that suck anyway around the world. Like, supports are normally some of the worst players on the team, generally speaking.
Yes.
So like, like
Well,
who really cares?
To speak some respect on Ayla's name, like Ayla, like the TL Academy roster that he's been on has won, you know, forever over in Academy. He's been a instrumental part of that, and other than Busio, he and Busio were the two most hype supports to get moved on up from Amateur Academy into the LCS. So I think this is a great test for him, and you can't be in a better position if you're Ayla. With the roster there, you do wonder about communication issues because, as you said, Spica does know how he wants to play, but it's, you know, 3 Koreans now on the roster. How does that translate on over? But I think Spica and then another player that has transferred back in, Summit. It's a redemption tour here for them, and hoping to see them at their high highs, both MVPs at one point, but also lost at one point in their careers. So it'll be exciting to see how these two, or how those two and this FlyQuest roster plays here in the future. Just side note again, Vikla's 19, guys. So he's going to be growing with us. He was the rookie of the split over in KT roster last year. So I feel like as much as they're going to come in and be lane dominant now, they're only going to get better as they learn and grow. And is there a mid duo that can stand up to them? Dom, you were saying it. Hey, these are the two. Jojo inspired. I mean, mid jungle, like Jojo inspired might be able to do something, but when you look at like the rest of the roster, like I just don't have faith that EG is going to be able to win again, because I feel like their AD carry is like kind of a side grade, maybe like slight upgrade in lane, but like downgrade later on in the game. Going from like Danny to FBI is really what I'm comparing. I'm not really counting the carry in here, like from when they won. And then I've always thought that Impact is just a better version of Someday. I mean, so when you compare like Someday to Impact, it's like, I don't know, I'd rather have Impact every time. I feel like they're the same player at this point in their careers, but Someday is just like slightly worse than Impact. So I don't really see like the advantage that Someday has is like being able to place some of those like carry oriented champions. Like, he has like slightly better Gwen, a slightly better Fiora, but it's not a good enough Gwen or Fiora where I actually consider that an advantage. For the three of us, since we're talking rosters, give me an early MVP candidate, a way too early MVP candidate for the year. LS, let's go with you. Who would you pick to be your MVP?
Here. I mean, we're in an ADC meta right now, right? Kind of in an ADC meta. I guess it would probably be Prince.
It is. Give it to the fans. Chat already spamming the hell out of Prince already, but this is gonna be.
It's gonna be Prince for sure.
I mean,
Dom.
Yeah, he's definitely the most like. I mean, you can't really say anyone. He's definitely the person that has the highest likelihood before you see one game to win MVP.
Really? I mean, there's one guy. There's one guy I'm thinking of, and you guys hit the points why I would pick him. We're not gonna go with Berserker here in an 80 carry meta. I feel like that's also a pretty good pick there. That was a.
I mean, I think Berserker's a pick, but I would just say that but like when you compare both players, like Prince is considered just a better 80 carry than Berserker, and they pretty much have like similar strength. So I mean, it's not that Berserker can't win it. It's just that the likelihood, like if I'm going percentage wise, I'm saying Prince.
Right.
All right.
But also
fair.
Berserk, like I feel like other players on FlyQuest are less likely to get MVP than Prince in a game, whereas Blabber and Fudge probably could.
That's true.
You know?
That's true.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, the argument against, like, if I was not gonna, so if I'm going for an AD carry, I would go Prince. If I was going for like somebody else, if I was going for another MVP of the split, like jungle and mid, obviously have higher chances to win MVP just in general because they have roles that are generally more active throughout the game. I would go maybe like JoJo. Like that would be somebody who I could see, you know, potentially popping off. Also, I think like mid lane pool. If you go down the mid lane list, mid lane is like pretty weak this year.
Yes.
I mean, it depends on how you value players like Gory, but like I thought Gory was nothing when he was playing in LPL. In LCK, he was actually pretty good when he was playing with Mong Shim. So I was excited when he joined LPL, but he did nothing in FPX. He ended up getting benched. Ended up going to PSG and didn't even make Worlds from PCS. So for me, I just don't know how I can like rate him still. I feel like JoJo will be probably like a top 3 mid at minimum in LCS, and then also like he's got narrative buff, man. People are gonna love him because he's an actual like American like playing in LCS, so he's always got that working for him. You know, people would rather give MVP to like an American like Blabber. Like they don't want to feel like, oh well, Koreans came over and they dominated our league like every single time. So if it's close, I think he gets like benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. All right, early MVP candidates. Inspired is the reigning MVP.
I mean North American, right? Not like American. He's Canadian, but
yeah, he's Canadian.
Obviously,
I wasn't gonna correct you, but that's cool. Chat was over it as per usual.
Chat is just trying to gotcha me like nonstop the entire stream. I've just noticed the entire one. I just won't look.
What was the other one? Someone tried to get you with. You're talking Summit. You're talking patch notes about feelings, Dom, based or biased or whatever it was.
Because I said I felt, and then I followed it up with a fact. Like
yeah, that is normally how you present
arguments.
Things
based on feelings are invalid. It's like you can't say the word feeling, or somebody will just say, oh, well, your point is 100% negated by just that. Oh, and then I said Summit, and I instantly corrected to Someday. That was the other one.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that one. There's one team that I'm looking through the rosters. All right, well, we didn't mention Immortals or TSM, but one team that I think we should have mentioned that we didn't mention, the only team that didn't make any changes last year, CLG. They are running back Dokla, Contracts, Palafox, Luger, Boom, the Dream Team or whatever potential realized. They finished higher than what people expected. How do we feel about them, given that across the board, everyone made changes here, Dom?
I don't think that they'll be better than they were, like than they were last split. I know a lot of people think that their team stuck together and they have like some buff, like, oh, they've been playing together for longer, so they're going to necessarily evolve. But I don't think that's necessarily the case with like the players that I see on that roster. I just don't. I think they'll be fine. But I do think everyone else got stronger, and they're not going to be significantly better. I think they'll have the same problems where they're good at some aspects of the game, and then once you get into like late game macro, they just don't have the experience on their players. Like, and I don't mean just experience as in they've been playing for a while. They don't have people that are experienced at winning games like in LCS to know how to like win series that go late, or to be able to beat out a team like 100 Thieves with their experience in a late game situation. I think they'll be able to still do their own thing, and they'll have the Yone top pick, like the Kali flex, the Yone flex. They'll have aspects of their game that, allows them to get wins. I just don't think that they'll be they won't be scary. I don't think they'll be top 6.
LS?
Yeah, I don't think, I agree with Dom. I don't think that they're going to end up being top 6. I think that CLG, I think that their like miracle run, or like their turn up last year was also a byproduct of a lot of teams starting to like flounder and look like what the fuck is going on with them. And I think that this year LCS is a lot better than it was last year. I think this year it's a lot scarier. And there's a lot more for CLG to go up against. And so I pretty much agree with Dom. I just think unfortunately the roster is not strong enough. There's too many stacked rosters. And the only way the only way that this would maybe ring true is if LCS has something going on like what fucking LCK has, where apparently all the veteran rosters are just getting completely their ass blown open by all of like the academy teams that have been. Why are you smiling? I'm not gay.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Many ways to say that. There, LS.
What?
Getting their ass blown wide open and balls tickled by the challenger teams. Continue.
Yep. Continue.
When your mustache tickles the nutsack.
Okay.
As soon as you said mustache, I knew where you're going with him. Come on, man.
Nice.
So
Perfect.
the veteran rosters. If the veteran rosters are getting now.
Yeah, you've derailed the entire show, LS.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Yeah, way to go, man.
Derail something. No, I'm kidding.
Jeez. All right.
Okay.
We'll just move on. Dignitas. That was the other team. You guys have them like 6th. They bring over Armit. Santorin moving teams yet again. Santorin's played for half the LCS now. Jensen finding his 3rd home. All right, this is his 3rd team ever, and then Spawn and Ignar down there on the bottom side. Ignar back in the league again. He's made it again. He's over at EG now. FlyQuest and now Dignitas. Where's the firepower come from this squad here, Dom?
Firepower, I think unironically has to come from like Spawn later on. I feel like Spawn is actually pretty good. He's underrated by people. I think he's actually solid. The problem is that AD carry is like kind of stacked. So I think that's the issue. When you look at this team, I just feel like they're just like the most like mid team ever. I mean, importing Armood, it's just such a Dignitas move, right? Like think about who Dignitas is imported. Like no flame to Hoon, right? Because Hoon's the GOAT, but like they actually imported Hoon. Like we got to be serious for a second. They imported Hoon. They imported Blue. Like these guys.
Who's actually behind the decisions?
I mean, I don't know. But like
Bakery.
Okay, look.
Well.
All I'm saying is that they have a coach who came from TCL originally, and they're picking up Blue and they're picking up Armoot, two players that played over in TCL as well. Like that's all I'm saying. I'm not accusing nepotism. I'm just saying, it's a strange coincidence that ends up happening. Also, like Armoot is coming off the worst split of his career, I would say. I mean, look, this is the joke I always make on other shows. If you look over at LEC, his team had 4 All-Pro first teams, the MVP, and the coach of the split. And they got 4th overall in the league. So think about that. Every single one of his teammates was All-Pro first team. They had the best coaching staff and the best player in the entire league, voted on by everyone. And they were 2nd in regular season, and they didn't win a best of 5. Like, think about what that means for Armoot. Jesus. So
that means he's
situation.
getting bought cheap. You know, if you're moneyballing a team, those are the types of players that you're looking for. The players that helped contribute to all of his teammates getting first or second team All-Pro, and you don't have to pay out the nose for him. They also brought over River, to be fair. And River was lighting it up the first couple weeks, and then he got solved last year, and then traded to Golden Guardians. So, you know, it allowed them to have the cash to buy Armit for this season. So, yeah. I think Dignitas has to do more with less. They always have to do more with less. And, this is one thing we didn't talk about, and I'm sure both of you know. There was just a major, for our friends at home, there was a major compression in the salaries in the LCS. So it was pretty high last year. Like players that shouldn't be getting paid X amount, or even the top end players were just getting paid astronomical amounts. There was a correction in the market. So salaries did go down. The amount that teams were willing to spend did go down, except FlyQuest because they got bought by the Florida Panthers owner, the Viola family. And so therefore, I think players were willing to accept lower salaries that the year before they wouldn't, which is why we get a team like Dignitas, which I think is interesting because Jensen has notoriously been known as one of the most expensive players and got to double down on it last year with Cloud9 when Cloud9 struggled without him there. And they're like, well, what do we do? Fudge mid. Okay, we'll go get Jensen, who has just been sitting there streaming, making money, and got to up his value. But the market
he streamed like twice. I don't know if if I would call him like streaming.
He streamed 3 times. So here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing. This is why I believe to stop streaming. Okay. Is he streamed like 3 times, and each time the average CCV like massively dropped, and then he just stopped. I think he hated streaming. I really think he just hated streaming.
Yeah.
Did he really
What?
only just stream 3 times?
Yeah, he only streamed 3 times.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about it with you guys after the broadcast then.
Okay.
There was some stuff that went down. So anyway, he waited in the offseason and his value went up because Cloud9 needed a fix. He was the best, most available fix, other than, I'm trying to think, who were the Jizuke, I guess. I think Jizuke joined like one of the EU Masters teams, so maybe even Jizuke wasn't available. So because of that, you get teams like Dignitas that are able to moneyball and try to build a roster, which is also what Golden Guardians are doing as they have River from last season, they bring in Gory, and then they bring back familiar faces in Stixay and Huhi. And then they've held on to Licorice now for his 3rd year over at Golden Guardians. I mean, now that we're looking on the other side of the table, Golden Guardians, Immortals, TSM, where do you think they rank themselves? If you had to go 1, 2, 3, I guess it would be 8, 9, 10. Where do you think they would be?
Well, so I have CLG. I think CLG might actually end up in that tier.
Oh, really? Oh, shit.
Yeah. I think CLG might be lower than 7th. I mean, who knows? But like with the rosters on paper, like I don't think TSM has that bad of a roster. I mean, when you look at TSM and CLG, they were neck and neck last split, right? So they went minus Pika plus Boogie, which I mean, I think Boogie is actually good. I know random people flame him because I don't know, he was like rank 1 in solo queue, and I don't know, just people hated him for being rank 1 in solo queue or something. It was weird, but I know people talk shit about Boogie. I think he's legitimately a good player. That's one. Like Maple is the same, Chime is the same, and I think they upgraded their AD carry as well. Like I think Neo is just better than Tactical, slash Instinct, who is now playing in Academy again, where he should be, to be honest. So I don't think TSM is necessarily going to automatically be the worst team or worse than CLG. I think that they'll be fighting potentially for that like 7th spot, and then under that I just have Immortals at the end, and you know Golden Guardians might be 8th. They might be 9th. They're just somewhere in that tier as well.
LS?
I mean, I see the thing is that there's the TSM, like there's all the negativity that surrounds TSM, and I feel like that will get to the players, just because the tendency, right, of LCS. So I think that's like something that we have to consider. So I think TSM is probably going to be 9th, and then Immortals will be 10th. I mean, that's what I think. I think Golden Guardians is probably going to be higher than CLG. So I'll give Golden Guardians 6th. 100 Thieves.
Or do you have them higher than Dig?
I have them higher than
Dig?
Dig. Yeah, I have them higher than
Damn,
Dig.
you got faith in Gory.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Golden Guardians. Hui bot lane. Jesus. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, Stixay Hui bot lane's pretty bad, but Gory is Gory actually just the best mid in LCS?
Hell
Probably
no.
it.
No
you
way.
think Vicla's better?
I think Vicla's better. I think
Jojo?
JoJo's better. I mean, I watched Gory play in LPL. I thought he was shit. Like,
Gory,
he was really shit when he played.
Yeah,
in
but
LPL.
Gory was good when he was in LCK, and then he went to LPL and he got bad. So like, I don't know.
And then he played in PCS, and he was like, I guess he was good, but
yes.
I mean, it's PCS, so it's like hard to know.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, yeah, we'll see. Okay, but yeah, for those reasons, I have them higher. So Golden Guardians, Dig, then CLG. So CLG, yeah, I mean, I guess CLG for me is 8th. Yeah, CLG is 8th for me.
So fascinating. I just, that's really fascinating. I guess, you know, again, basing it off a preseason roster, and if you're not thinking about last season, I just feel like being able to build upon it.
But that's like a myth. Like, you don't just like actually build upon things with the same players that that are all like similar skill level. Like, you can build upon it if you have like super rookie, like you have rookies
like
that are really
rookie.
talented, that are like insane in lane, but they're just all stupid as fuck, and then they just like they lose every game that they should win. But if you're actually just like a very mediocre team, and you stay together and you don't improve any part of your roster, like I think that at times you end up kind of getting worse, because like the flaws of your team become more evident to people, and you don't have the natural ability to like fix them within the team, and like they don't have a different coach. I mean, I just think that I don't see where they improve from. Like they're all
Luger
veteran
and Poom.
players, actually.
Well, Luger and Poom, that was their first split in the LCS, and Luger as a rookie early on. I think going back to your point on how to win games, they were put in Luger and Poom were put in multiple situations where Luger was the win condition. It was counter Luger gaming, and now he has experiences of winning those games and messing up when all the eggs were in his basket. I think that's where that was the big point where I thought they would grow.
I would ask you this. Okay, so who is Luger better than in the LCS as AD carry? Who is he better than in the LCS right now?
Spawn, FBI, Stixay, Tactical.
He's better than
Neo,
FBI?
Yon.
No, I know Berserker thinks that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Berserker might think that. I mean, from watching the games, I thought that he was better actually in the split where they were complete shit in spring. I thought that Luger was better in that split than he was in this recent split. So that's so like I don't expect him to outperform FBI, but like okay, so you think he's better than Spawn? I could take that. He's better than Tactical. I think everyone's better than Tactical. Stixay, yeah, okay.
Yon and Neo. I have him like 4-5
than Yon and Neo. Okay,
like I mean, for Yon, it's prove it. Like Luger proved it last year that he can be the rock that CLG need to carry, and so for Yon, it's prove it. For Neo, yes, like I think he is better. I think Neo was a product of Afro kind of micromanaging him and him being very good mechanically.
I think Neo is pretty good mechanically. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not 100% sold that Luger is necessarily just a better AD carry than Neo. But then when you compare him to like the top half of the league, I don't know. I just to me, I would have him like maybe like 6th. I would maybe cap out that Luger is like the 6th best AD carry in the league.
Yeah.
And then it's like, so
there's
that's
a very
best player.
clear
So
tier
your best
above
player
him.
is like 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if your best player is like the 6th best player in the league at his position, it's like that is normally a recipe for being an absolute bottom team. Like that's like, I mean, because you're arguing that CLG is going to be better than 8th and 9th. Like 8th and 9th is like if your top player is the 6th best player in the league, it's tough to be higher than 8th or 9th.
Yep. Agree with that.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm saying he's 4-5. You have to figure out which contracts you get. Do you get good contracts, good Juan that day or bad Juan that day? And then they have a carry potential with Dokla in the top lane. That was something that's missing, and a lot of other players don't really do. You know, like they don't carry in the top lane. They're like they'll carry other ways, but on their tank or on their bruiser. But Dokla can pull out the Yone. It's something that everyone always has to think about, and no one else really garners that type of attention. So I think you have Luger and Dokla to play through. Contracts on the day can be a top 3 jungler, but also can end up being like a feeder. So I admit that. And then Palafox sits like 7th. So I'll give you that one for sure. So I think that's why I'm like, this team can make playoffs. Right now, you guys have them like outside of playoffs, and that sounds really harsh. That sounds harsh to me for a team that proved it and decided we're going to run it back.
They were 5th, 6th last split, so they were tied with TSM, and I would argue that TSM went to like 5 games to almost. I mean, I guess they both did technically, but I think the TSM was actually looking like the better team at the end. Even though that sounds kind of fucked up, you got to remember that 5-game series that TSM played with EG. Like, it looked like they were actually going to win. So, I mean, TSM might have been better than them when they were having one of their worst splits ever at the end. So, okay, maybe we could give CLG 5th. They were 5th or 6th. So they're the bottom of playoffs last year, and now the whole league's improved and they've stayed the same. So I feel like the argument has to just be that they're going to develop, but I just don't see where the development comes from. I feel like development is like, it's not a thing like it is in like the NBA, for example. When I watch like the NBA, you'll see like a player actually like a player on a bad team will actually get better because the coaching is so much better and they're able to, give them the resources that they need and give them the advice they need to transform their game. But it just seems like in LCS, you need other people. You need a new coach. You need you need better players on your team that you can learn from. I just feel like the same core doesn't really improve that much, generally speaking.
Well, I mean, speaking of good coaching, you got coach of the split think card right there. I'm kidding. I'm not going to die on this.
Okay.
I'm not going to die the hill. But he did win. They won coaching staff of the split. But that's not the hill I'm going to die on. I believe you on that, and I think you have convinced me more. I just think that I don't know. Like I think they should be in position to get bumped off by like a Dignitas rather than Dignitas is slotted on in. That's how I feel about that one. Anyway, we're talking about the fringes of playoffs here. Okay, so one more time for everyone. Let's just get it down. Dom, who did you have at your power rankings 1 through 10?
My power rankings 1 through 10. I had 1 FlyQuest, 2 C9, 3 EG, 4 TL, 500 Thieves, 6 Dignitas. I had 7 TSM, 8 Golden Guardians, 9 CLG, 10 Immortals. That's what I had.
All right. And then LS, what'd you have?
I had Fly, C9, EG, TL, 100 Thieves, Golden Guardians, Dig, CLG, TSM, Immortals.
All right. Golden Guardians making the playoffs according to LS for the first time since the Golden Thieves, right? That was the first time they made playoffs? Yeah. No. They made the playoffs on the expanded playoffs, I think, with the 18 playoffs. I forgot. All right.
Wait, who? Which team?
Golden Guardians.
They made their first playoffs with the Froggen lineup, right?
Yeah.
Holy Froggen, what is he up to? Oh my god. Wait, what? Wait, he's
sure.
He's playing again?
Is he?
Wait, no, he's not. Wait, he's a content creator for Luminosity. What?
Oh, look at that Luminosity losing
XQC,
XQC,
so
getting
disrespectful when he brings people up. Like, what the fuck is this guy doing? He's from Luminosity. I just don't. All right, okay, it is what it is.
Okay.
No, I mean, I haven't heard. It's so. Isn't it not? Is it not weird for you guys that like some of the most iconic names in the history of like our game, they just disappear?
Yeah,
that's what happens though. Not everyone goes out in the sun. Like, so for example, last season, I think they had a good season worthy enough of playing again. When I look at these supports, maybe not, but there's no Afro. Afro is not on a roster for the first time in a very, very long time, right? Like, there's no announcement about it. He's not retiring. So, like, that's what happens, right? Until you actually do step down.
I mean, he'll probably retire, no?
I don't know.
What
if Golden Guardians needs a guy, right?
Afro, I think, is like kind of a unique player in LCS, like for LCS, because he makes bad teams. Like, he can take a dog shit 10th place lineup and make them like bottom tier playoffs, which is like what a lot of teams need, to be honest. Like, he knows how to like get a team to not be complete dog shit. I think that's valuable, you know? Like that's actually a fucking crazy superpower. So many players you see go, like, even stars, they go on bad teams and they just become dog shit with the team. But Afro can make a bad team like serviceable.
Yeah,
it sounds like exactly what you said CLG need. But you can't break up Luger Poom. You wouldn't break up Luger Poom. I don't think you would. But that he can teach a team how to win, and he's your on-field general. But a player like that, right, who was winning with FlyQuest and putting them in positions to win, now you don't hear anything. You don't hear anything about moving on. So I wish. What would you have them do, LS? Like, in an ideal world, like, would it be just like a retirement announcement and here's my plans for the future? I don't know, or just like a post? No, just for pros in general. Like when
they really do disappear. Well, it always does strike me as odd when like someone is tweeting every day, they're active on like Instagram, right? Like they're active in Discords or whatever, and then one day they just disappear.
That's literally going to be us in like 2 years.
Yeah, man.
No, but when you actually disappear or something, well, I mean, I'm going to the MMO, right? Like, but when you actually disappear, don't you think you're gonna make a video or a tweet?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on how certain I am that I'm gonna do it. Like, maybe I'll just explore life and just be like, hey, you know what? Like, I want to do something else, and I just slowly.
Right, then you might say that though, right? That you're gonna explore, like maybe seeing if you don't want to do it anymore, right?
I'm not sure.
Really?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think I would probably just like. I mean, like, I know that I'm not gonna be doing the schedule that I'm doing right now forever, right? Like. Am I going to be like 38 years old, waking up at 3 a.m. to co-stream LPL and then do LEC and LCS? Like, am I going to be doing that in like 5 years? I would doubt it. But I mean, I don't know. I'll probably just have something else that I I want to do, and I'll slowly start doing it. It's like I didn't make like a tweet when I stopped streaming solo queue, for example. Like I streamed solo queue like every day, like 8 hours a day for 4 years, and then I just found something else and I just transitioned to doing that, you know? Like so yeah, I mean I don't know. I don't think that like it has to be like super dramatic or anything.
Gosh, this is we're hitting such a serious downturn here. Aware in chat, everyone.
Well, I almost made.
We're all gonna disappear.
You know, I
sometime.
almost left. I almost quit this past off season, right?
Yeah.
This was maybe almost it. I
so
had,
okay. So did you think about what you were
yeah.
what you were gonna write or post or have a video?
I had everything sort of planned out. I had 2 months of testing, right, which is the video that I make soon. So I have 2 months of test. I had 2 months of testing, and obviously I was very inactive. And I was talking with Dom. I was talking with Cadril, Doublelift. I was talking with a lot of people. So I think a lot of people know that I did almost legitimately walk away. And I think I would have made a I mean my plan was that there would be a video. That was my plan, but it really did almost happen, at least for me. And it's I assume it's because of like the same thing Dom's talking about, like the schedule and the stuff that we get or receive or like deal with is really mentally draining.
Well, I mean, look, I just think it's not healthy to be in front of a camera for like 50 years or some shit in a row. Like I've lived my entire adult life in front of a camera since I was like 19 years old. So at some point I'm probably going to want to be like a normal person and not have people like know me like that, you know?
Right.
Or like, like, I think that it's just like, it's pretty sick to like, just be like your own person, just focus on yourself and not like have people constantly like it's just weird being a public figure. You go into a random fucking thread or you go on a random tweet and people are just talking shit about you or like they're saying like, it's just weird. Right. So it's like, eventually you just don't want that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll stop talking shit about Dom and they'll start talking shit about Mr. Rivera.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, it's just like more that you don't have to like see it, you know, like you can just be doing whatever, which is, I mean, essentially what I do when I take breaks anyway. Like I just won't tweet. Like I'll let my Twitch numbers go down. I'll let everything go down. And I'll just come back and do what I want to do. It's literally a way to kind of just make streaming more enjoyable. It's like you purposely, like for me, I'm like purposely killing my stream in the off season to like make sure that things like stay at a point where I enjoy streaming, you know?
Yep.
So someone in chat was like, Dom, you will entertain us until you die.
maybe.
All right. Let's get it back on topic here. Thanks, Froggen, for that segue. Let's move on from rosters now, as we had our power rankings, into the meta that has already developed in the major leagues that have already played. We've got the LPL, LCK, and the LEC. LS, I'll start with you here. You've been pretty, thank you, Melina, for this ingenious graphic. You've been pretty vocal about the same champs getting picked over and over again. Why do you feel like, do you feel like it needs to be like this, that the meta is solved? Or do you feel like, hey, it's the beginning of the season, the LCK teams are just going to play and try to just execute better than another team?
Well, I have YouTube videos that talk about, one of them was went over really well last year on Reddit. I think it was called Pro Players and Stagnation. And then there's another video from 2017 that I made that actually predicted that this would inevitably happen. It's a very old video when I was 2017. Like, how small was I as a content creator? And that's on there. It's called like an LS Logic video. And it predicted that this would eventually happen. And people are like holding out for 13.2 and they're like, oh, this is going to be, it's going to be good. There's a lot of nerfs and stuff. And it's like, no, it's not. Have you learned nothing the last 4 years? What's going to happen is there's going to be a new 380 carries, a new 3 mid laners, new 3 top, new 3 junglers, new 3 supports. That's it. That's all that's going to happen. We are going to be perpetually locked in a 30 to 40 champion cycle, which is less than 25% of the entire League of Legends champion base, right? And the reason for that is because it's pro players. It's very apparent, right? One, in Korea and China, there's the cultural aspect where if you can't do it better than the other person, you shouldn't try to innovate. And there's even an interview where Peanut actually talked about how in scrims they would try to deviate from the meta, and even if they won, they felt like they shouldn't do it because it doesn't feel right, and they're not sure if like their wins are legitimate, and it feels weird. And I don't know where that interview is. It might be on Horizon or something, but he actually talks about how they felt really weird trying to deviate, and the coaching staff would get really upset, and the players didn't feel comfortable. So that's the Asian thing. The Western thing is obviously that like they want to just play what they're losing to, and if they win, then they want to just keep playing what they win, right? And so that's the cycle over and over and over. And one of the things that I remember thinking of is like when Sven went on Summoning Insight and he talked about like the C9 thing, right? Where I made them play the same comp like 6 games in a row because they kept thematically playing it wrong. They would have like an Ivern, Ivern mid with like Xin or Gwen in jungle, and then they would try to take fights really early for no reason. They wouldn't like death ball. They wouldn't wait for items to come online and stuff. And then they would try to force ganks, and they would try to have Ivern push and do these tower dives. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, if you make a control deck in a TCG, why are you playing for creatures? Why are you putting creatures in your deck? If you have like a zoo red deck that's supposed to win by turn 3, why do you have an 8-turn creature that you put in your deck? Because you like it. It looks cool. Like it's not on theme. So I made them keep playing it until they won. And when they won, then, Sven, I think, said in that video that it's like, well, it removes the ability to just copium by saying that draft difference. But stale meta is really fucking bad. And I know this is long-winded, but I'm losing my fucking mind. And I already know that I'm going to lose my mind this year.
Hey, I don't think it was long-winded. I think that was very detailed to every counter-argument that goes against it. Just for, I guess, for additional context,
Where's Udyr?
Did the team?
That's
where is Udyr?
Yeah, champion is broken. But
you cannot play against that. Like, this is the okay. Dom? You watched Soraka, right? Trimby.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How can pro players watch what she did in that game and not be like, yeah, I think she just got lucky.
Well, I mean, look, the main thing that I think pro players see when they see that game is they see how dogshit XL played into the Soraka, and they assume that was 100% of Soraka's strength. They attribute most of the importance of Soraka in that game to the misplays of XL rather than like, Soraka being super broken there. But I think that the main issue that I see with like champion picks and champion diversity is that players just way overvalue like their own personal champion proficiency over like what is actually strong in the game, and like how like a broken champion can actually like how much that can actually affect the game. Which like, I mean, from a player perspective, like, I mean, I've been a player. I know like being on that side of things where you want to play things that you're really good at, right? So if you're like a 90 out of 100 on something, you want to play that 90 out of 100 in a suboptimal situation over something that you're like 70 out of 100 on, and you're like, oh shit, I might look like an idiot, dude. Like, what if I play this champion and I just like combo wrong, or I like, I cancel my Malzahar ult or something, and people flame me for it for like 6 years on stream. Like shit, like I don't want that to happen to me. But like in reality, if you look at like some of the best and some of the most effective picks that we've ever seen in pro play history have come from players that were like first timing something. Like in a game, or not first timing, but like picking something that they hadn't practiced in scrims, like first timing with their team and just taking over a game because it was an ideal spot for it. So for example, when I was talking to Selfmade about yesterday on stream, was his Kindred picks for top esports. In Fnatic 2020, they played the best of 5 into top esports. They won the first 2 games. And Selfmade played Kindred into Jarvan, which is like unlosable matchup. Like Jarvan can't, like, imagine trying to Jarvan combo a Kindred. Just think about that in your head, and then like imagine that you're not bronze, and then you're actually like a pro player, and the guy that's playing the Kindred is also a pro player. Then you're like, damn, I could never combo that Kindred. That Kindred is just gonna like outscale me. He could fight more than me early. Like he can get every single mark. This champion is gonna be like super OP, and that's not because Selfmade is the best Kindred player to ever exist. Like when you think of Selfmade, you associate him with assassins, right? He's not like a range DPS, like, you know, like he's going to be the guy that's going to avoid fights and be really mechanically sound and like not get hit by skills. He's just like the beast assassin player, but he played a pick that was so good for a situation that he was able to take over against one of the best teams in the world, like a team that was considered, I mean, they ended up being top 4 in the world that year. They won LPL. Like they were just considered an extremely strong team, and that's the power of having just a really good pick for a situation. But players are just scared, like at the potential downside, which is why I always like players that are willing to just play things that they think are good, even if they're not like super experienced on it. Like that's why, you know, if you look at the players that I really fuck with, it's like if you look at Perks, right? Perks looks like an idiot sometimes when he's playing champions that he's just like not great on, right? Like he just looks bad sometimes when he's picked something for the situation. But the fact that he's willing to do that is why he's been such a winner over the course of his careers, because he's willing to put himself out of his comfort zone to put his team in a better position to win a game.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like this is all totally accurate. Now, the thing that I've said is that with the way that Riot's balance is they only nerf. And what this ends up meaning is, so if you go to most pro players' solo queue IDs, and you look at season 2022, right? Season 12, season 11, season 10, season 9, season 8. It is always the same top 7. They're always playing the same champions in their top 7, unless a brand new champion comes out, right? And they really have an affinity for it. And what this means is that because Riot's balance philosophy is to nerf and not buff, that all that is old becomes new again. It's like that quote, right? Where if their current popular top 7 champions are good and then they get nerfed, that means that their old top 7 champions become good, right? Like it fucking, now it goes up again. Like the champions that they're not playing in their top 7 are suddenly the best. And so they go back to that. And this leads to shit like, you know, I used to meme Summit for it, right? The Nar Camille Jace Renekton, the cycle. Right? Where if Camille's really good, he'll play Camille. If Camille gets nerfed, well, what the fuck, you know, what's going on? Maybe now he's just going to play Jace. Oh, Jace got nerfed, I'll play Nar. Oh, Nar got nerfed, I'll play Renekton. Oh, Renekton got nerfed too? Oh, Camille's probably good again. I'll try her again. And the cycle just keeps going. And then Camille gets nerfed again. Then Nar gets nerfed. And then Jace gets nerfed. And then repeat, right? And it happens in mid lane. We see it every fucking year. How often is it, inevitably, that it becomes a Zir Victor?
Corki,
a Zir Victor Corki. It always happens because Riot only fucking nerfs. And it's so fucking cancer. And I can't stand it. But then you don't have pro players willing to play Ziggs. You don't have pro players willing to play Anivia. You don't have pro players willing to play Vel'Koz. You don't have pro players willing to fucking play Kassadin until he's so fucking broken that you can't ignore him. You just don't have pro players willing to do this. Why is Caitlyn getting banned every single game right now in almost every region when she literally loses to Ziggs? Or you can do things like play as real Karma and force a fucking Karma ban from the Caitlyn side, or things like this, right? Where the fuck are so many things that are happening inside of the meta? Where is Udyr in the jungle? Where's Karthus? Where's Fiddlesticks when he's in literally one of the best situations he's ever been in? Why are we having Vi inside of the jungle? Why are people building Chempunk? Why are they building Chempunk? It doesn't make it instead of Black fucking Cleaver. What are we doing? Why are people building double Grievous Wounds in LEC? Pro players are so like laughably incompetent. Look, that's why it's so easy. I just one sentence. This is why it's so easy to celebrate the really good ones like Trimby and like fucking Targamas and like Caps and all these other ones that are clearly fucking thinking. Because it stands out, because they're the black sheeps, because they're clearly fucking thinking. You go into fucking LCK and you have Kyle spending 2,500 gold a game on fucking control wards, averaging like a 25-minute mythic on support Karma. What the fuck are you doing? Trimby had 3 items at 25 minutes yesterday because he doesn't buy control wards. Like, I fucking can't. They're so incompetent. That's literally it. Pro players are incompetent. They can't actually justify their actions without just appealing to emotion or feelings.
Well, I mean, I feel like, so they're not completely incompetent. They're competent. They're generally just competent mechanically. And then like the other side of it, they just don't value highly at all. Like the mental side of it is where you see more incompetence. of it. This is what, so I've recently, this is going to sound like the most boomer shit ever, but I don't give a fuck. I've recently been watching a ton of like Warcraft 3 pro players. And it's crazy how in a game that has been like
you're gonna set me off.
There's been minor patches. There's been minor patches for like years, how much the game has changed. Like, just the players are so fucking good in that game. The players are so smart in that game. And they understand just like all the different things that you could do, all the options that you have. And it's like, you know, you see the same matchup evolve over years. You see undead versus undead being played. And it's like, first, you know, everyone was just going DK fiends and going for like high yeah. Bring the Warcraft 3 up. People are going for like, you know, like high economy, really like high tier units. Then you saw people transfer to like, oh wait, actually DK sucks. Like now we have like, you had a crypt you had a crypt lord meta. Now you have a lich meta where people are going like they just alter the matchup so many times because they just get better and better at understanding what is actually going on. So like it's been the most like, it's been the most eye-opening thing ever to go back to a game that I used to play a lot in Warcraft 3 and just see what's going on. I've been watching the Back to Warcraft channel, and people are so fucking smart and so good at the game now. They've gotten to such a level of this game that I swear League of Legends players will never reach.
They will never ever reach it. And I've talked about this because during my break and also during Worlds and during my break in summer, I was watching a lot of StarCraft. And I was talking with a lot of StarCraft players, and it's the same exact thing because so I come from StarCraft, right? StarCraft was my game for 8 years, right? And I qualified to, or I was eligible to be a trainee for one of the StarCraft 1 Kespa teams. I don't know where that would like place me in the world, maybe like top 300 or something like that in StarCraft
so you're like
1.
Challenger worldwide.
I was like Challenger. I was one of the best non-Korean players in the world. And on the ladder, like I could get to A rank. I was very, very high rated. And even in StarCraft 2 and Wings of Liberty, I was Grandmaster on the Korean server. I think like my peak was like 120 Grandmaster on Korea. So basically, I go back and I look at this stuff, and it's like, I know as an RTS player, the level of deductive reasoning that we use to make decisions that are highly accurate, that are like very, very cutting edge precise. And I just see, and I know when I talk to League of Legends players, how they don't try to do these things. They don't even think about it, right? So if you don't think about it, then of course you'll never do it, right? You'll never try to push limits. And like what you're talking about with Warcraft and StarCraft, they keep trying to push limits. And another game that does this is Smash Brothers Melee, right? You see how the players like lab over and over and over.
The Yoshi
and over.
guy.
Right, Amsa, right? Amsa winning with Yoshi, finally. Like, these are beautiful examples, and this is what makes me so infuriated with League of Legends players because they're so. It's almost like like they're so babied by the luxury of how fortunate they are that they're playing League of Legends.
That I don't know if you feel like this, but isn't League of Legends kind of just like the esports pros are like the worst in League of Legends around, like compared to any other like esport. Like if you compare like how good they are compared to like what you could be, like League of Legends is some like noob shit. It's like it's a noob esport compared to Warcraft 3, StarCraft 2, Dota. Like you compare it to Super Smash Bros. Melee. Like those games, like the players are so much fucking better at those games. It's crazy. Like so that's, I mean, I feel like that's a really important thing. I don't know. I've started investing more time into like watching other esports because I feel like it like you almost get stuck when you watch League of Legends esports. You need to watch other things to really like open your mind to what is possible.
This is why a lot of my advice is when people like boot camp with me, I try to get them to play other games. I try to get like I try to get most pro players that I like do stuff with to play like Magic at like a really high level because of critical thinking and deductive reasoning, like the stuff that you're forced to use, right? You know, I've tried to get some players to like play StarCraft like on a very basic level so that they could like watch games and have like conversations. Stuff like that I think is important. Cycling this back, one of the things that I didn't think of the answer at the time, I did a podcast, right? It was Trash Talk, right? With Cadril and Doublelift. And this was in, what was this, February? It was February, right? And I talked about how incompetent League of Legends players are because of the ability for patchless game players to keep improving and getting better. And Cadril made a response, and I didn't have an answer in my head immediately at the time, where League of Legends is not a patchless game, but I likened it to a patchless game. And he had said that it wasn't a patchless game because there's patches every 2 weeks. And so everything changes a little bit. And I thought, how do I rebuke this? Because I have a really strong feeling that it's not actually true, or that he shouldn't be able to just say this as a response to rebuke my claim that like League is essentially patchless. And then it hit me. Every 2 to 3 months, RTS maps rotate and new maps are introduced, which alters the timing attacks, the builds, the building placement, the attack paths, and where the battles take place. And yet the players are constantly learning. That is the equivalency to League of Legends, Riot's pathetic 2-week patches. And so, yes, League of Legends is a patchless game because fundamentally Riot almost never changes it. The same way that StarCraft and Warcraft, they may be patchless, but they're not patchless in the sense that the maps dramatically alter how everything looks. And that should have been my response, but I didn't have that in my head. I dwelled on it for like a few hours after the podcast because it really made me upset.
Enjoyers? Any Warcraft 3 enjoyers?
I didn't know the
in the
answer.
Chat? Any Warcraft 3 players here?
Almost like you're saying, like the patches that you would want to see, or that the patches that are worthy to call it a patched game would be like the preseason changes, the off-season changes, that kind of thing.
You need the patches that literally make everyone go, what the fuck is going on?
Got it.
And the only reason Riot stopped doing those patches was because major pro players complained, right? Once upon a time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Those same major pro players wanted a 5-game schedule per day so they could get out of the office earlier. They wanted to go into game 4 and fucking they're losing scrims and they call game 5. These are the pro players that don't want the fucking patches and stuff, man. Who cares how hard it is?
That was another thing. We didn't get to dive into that one, the scrim schedule. But again, thank you for the nuanced conversation on how other games kind of dictate and kind of tell where we're at with League 13 years in from a professional standpoint.
If you ever want to feel useless as a League pro or like former League pro or anything, just go watch like a match of high level Warcraft 3. Like just go type it in YouTube on YouTube and just watch it. And you'll be like, holy shit, I'm dog shit. I am just worthless. Players are so insane.
Real quick, LS just got to weigh in on it. Dom, teams, it was announced that the LCS teams are moving their scrims back to 2 blocks of 3. So 3 scrims and then break. And
which
then
is literally what we used to do. We used to do like 2 or 3 blocks of scrims. Yeah. Like we used to literally do that. And then they just did less scrims when we were still like behind the other regions. So yeah, it was really great. Salaries went up and then people started working less.
How about that? The only thing I don't like about this is that they shifted the time frame later into the day. So scrims, I think, now start 1 to 4. Yeah, I think it's like 1 to 4. Well, it makes sense
because the LCS is slightly later in the day, right?
Is that why?
Yeah. I would assume.
I guess, well, the games were at 12 before. So 12, now you're moving it over to, I guess. I mean, it just makes it insanely impossible for players to have a healthy sleep schedule because you'd go 1 to 4, you have lunch from 4 to 5, or what is called
you have an hour
lunch,
break,
4 to 5, and then you go back at it 5 to 8. You do review, you solo queue, or you do dinner, review, dinner, solo queue. You're going to bed at like 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning if you're grinding out games, and you wake back up at 10 to do it again. That just feels
my schedule when I was a pro player was I slept 4 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. So I slept 5.5 hours a night. I would play 1 solo queue before scrims between 10 and 11. And then 11 o'clock, we'd go to the office. And then we'd do like a review or like we'd talk about what we were going to play for the day. 12 to 3 scrim block. 4, you have a break. Like normally people just use it to eat. 4 to 5, you have a break. Sometimes I would play a game while eating. And then 5 to 8, you have your, 3 to 4 is that break. So it was 12 to 3, 3 to 4 was the break. 4 to 7 was another scrim set. Then we had another 1 hour break, 7 to 8. And then you had 8 to 10, you had a 2 hour 2-game block to end the day. And then I would play solo queue from like 10:30 to 4 a.m.
6 hours solo queue. I mean,
dude. No, I wanted to say, I wanted to say like the StarCraft practice schedule was like 14 hours a day. right? Like StarCraft pro houses, right? And usually the rebuke to stuff like this is you get the Redditors or like the people that say that it's not healthy. And then it like immediately makes me think of like, name me a professional sport in the world where the top tier professional athletes are living healthy lives.
Yeah.
Or they're not
Like, have you
totally
listened-
consumed.
Listen
Yeah,
to
I know.
fucking
That's
Kobe
why. That's
talk.
why you just know this person's a fucking idiot. That's the sentence that they say to cope with the reality that they're not good at the game, or that like they're not
being
willing
the
to
best-
do it. They're not
being
willing
the best
to do
is
it.
not a healthy endeavor. Like being
Right,
the
it's
best
not.
in something
Exactly,
ultra
exactly,
competitive is
exactly,
not something that
exactly.
you go in with like health in mind. Like this
Yes,
is not like
correct.
a work-life balance. This is like you're trying to be the best like globally at something that millions and millions and millions of people do. You have to sacrifice. Like listen to anyone talk. Like listen to Kobe stories. Go fucking YouTube Kobe stories. This motherfucker was like up at the gym fucking 4 a.m. doing a 2-hour workout, then doing a shoot around, then doing practice, having another shoot around, then his second workout of the day. Then he would go to therapy. Like it was like insane what this motherfucker did to put himself in shape to be one of the best to ever do it. Like that's just what you need to do. Is what it is.
And we just don't do it. Well, not
So
yet.
make the other sports healthy then as well. What?
What do you,
Like, it's so
they don't.
oh,
they don't
man.
get it.
It's-
They don't
it's
get
so
it. They
retarded.
don't get it.
I
I can't.
All right, chat.
The point is not for it to be healthy. The point is that it's not healthy. Like, and you want to just be as good as fucking possible.
Yes.
Well,
Point is that
again, we have.
it cannot be healthy because the person that really wants to be as good as possible won't do what you're doing. That's it. That's the point.
Well, for the first time ever, I think this is the first time ever, we have a reigning world champion in the LCS to go ahead and dictate that to a team that seems primed to be able to listen and do it.
Who?
Other than Harry. Pyosik.
Oh Jesus.
I mean, he was part of
Look.
the system.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean-
you know what? Saying that Pyosik's a reigning world champion is like saying Looper was going to do something for the LCS. No, it's not.
Okay.
Jesus, like
Well, I
I'm
didn't-
sorry.
That
like,
was
like,
that
I'm
was
sorry. It's
pretty
not going to do anything. Pyosik would
Alright.
literally look exactly like Beryl if he was left behind right now. Okay, Beryl is never getting back to Worlds. All right, like it's done. Okay, like all right, like.
All right, we've hit a ton of topics in our first episode of season 5 of Facecheck. Crazy to say it. We've got one more segment that we got to do to close it on out with the help of our friends over at Esports Bet. This segment is called Facecheck All In, where we take a look at the games of the week and we place our bet that we will just one bet, one pick, or one prop that we see is
Real
pretty
money.
good. You can sign up over at esportsbet.io, log on in, and play for some USDT. Okay. To kick things off, let me go first so I can take the easy one. When you head on over to Esports Bet, you filter out just to the LCS for North America. Right there, there's a very, very, very clear line for me that seems not correct in the live odds. The third match of the day.
Quest?
Give me the fly quest. For some reason, the odds are it's 1.6 for Team Liquid to win, 2.1 for FlyQuest to win. Give me FlyQuest. That seems wrong because in the next match against 100 Thieves, FlyQuest is the favorite. So, yeah, the FlyQuest one is pretty big for me. That seems like an easy pick.
Yep. I mean, I was gonna go with the same one. I mean, that one, like they have 2.1 odds. FlyQuest has 2.1 odds versus TL. So, I mean, I think that's pretty crazy. Are we allowed to have the same one, or do I have to give a different one?
I would like for you to give a different one. Is there someone? Okay. You've been betting dogs throughout this season so far. Do you have any dogs here that you're like, hey, this looks like an interesting dog that I'll take?
I mean, that's an underdog bet that I mean, that's technically an underdog bet. I would I mean, I don't know if I would go another underdog bet, but I think that like FlyQuest 1.5 versus 100 Thieves, that's a pretty solid one in my mind. I mean, I think FlyQuest like should beat 100 Thieves. So I think if you're getting more than 1.4 and you're betting on FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves, I just think that it's a solid it's a solid bet. Probably pretty consistent.
All right. LS, have you seen something that interests you in the live odds over at Esports Bet?
Yeah, I mean, I think that C9 versus 100 Thieves is solid for the same reasons of Dom. I agree. I mean, I would take the two ones that you guys literally just said. So, of course, you discriminated by leaving me last.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of my orientation.
No.
All right, he
Yes.
said yes. Cancel. No,
Cancel me. Cancel me. It's time.
Holy shit. I
Not on
think
the first
Team Liquid.
episode,
I think Team Liquid versus Dig 1.5 is actually fine. 1.5 versus Dig, like what? That's fine. What the fuck? Imagine what's gonna happen in top lane. Holy shit! Like, oh my lord.
Summit versus Armut.
Summit versus Armut, dude. Holy shit.
Jesus.
Oh my god.
Honestly, if you're going underdog bets here, right? So here's another one that I think is interesting. This wouldn't be like my recommended play was the one that we would talk about. The other play that I think is pretty interesting is like CLG 2.5 odds versus Dignitas, fourth game of the day, because CLG, like, so I don't think they'll be good by the end of the split, but I think that, like, when you keep the same roster, you'll at least have a higher base level than a team like Dignitas, who, you know, I mean, Armut literally was in Europe. He still might be in Europe right now. I was watching his stream recently. I was watching him in a game. I was watching a stream, and he was in the game in Europe, like, this week. So, like, they haven't been practicing with their full core right now. So I think CLG 2.5 versus Dignitas is another one that I would look at. But, yeah. I mean, I think the FlyQuest versus TL, I think that's probably your best one.
Does that mean the boy Hoon is getting the start here? If Armut's not able to make it, Hoon versus Stoke?
I was hoping that Hoon makes it in.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see. If you want to go ahead and play it, sign up over at esportsbet.io. Thank you to Esportsbet for making a face check possible. And there you have it, y'all. Another episode done and dusted. Another season opener done and dusted. 5 years of it. We're excited to knock out the whole season. You can find this video. Where can they find it, Dom, for the season?
Esports Bet YouTube channel. So if you just type Esports Bet into YouTube, it'll be that channel right there.
Yeah,
The one that has dGON's face on it and LS's face on it in the shorts.
Nice.
There you go.
All the uploads will be posted there for the year, so you can go ahead and subscribe there. Yeah. Let us know in the comments below if you are a Warcraft 3 enjoyer, what your power rankings are, who your MVP candidate is. We'll pick out a couple of the comments for next week. Guys, here we go. Another season, 2023, season 13. It can't be as bad as the beginning of the year, and we'll get into it. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you guys next week for another episode of Face Check. See ya.